Hello there, it's Josh here. I thought with Really Super running in the 6 p.m. at Worcester on Wednesday, I would record a video looking at her chance, the opposition, and whether the best handicapped summer jumper in training can finally get another win on the board since she returned from her winter break. She may not be the best handicapped uh, summer jumper in training, of course, but we're all convinced she's a hell of a lot better than the mark of 121. It's just a case of when she's going to show it, whether or not it will be today, returning to Worcester, returning to those fixed brush hurdles, may spark her into life, and or indeed whether or not it will take a fence for her to really take the step up that we think she can. I should just touch on her last race. When I was rather bullish, I'm not going to be as bullish this time, as I was left with egg on my face. If the last two races had gone a bit differently, and certainly if she'd have jumped better last time out, she could have won 2 starts ago. She certainly could have won last time, although she was lugging around 12 stone, and she was a bit quiet after the race back home. Amy reported her to be a bit subdued. And she wasn't as, I mean, she's normally quite enthusiastic through her races, and she wasn't that at UTOX. Whether or not 21 days was a bit too soon, I'm not really sure. She's had kind of an extra week or an extra 5 days or so here, but she was a bit subdued through the race, and of course, her jumping let her down. She lost plenty of lengths at quite a few hurdles. The hope was, I think, returning to a kind of class 3, there would be a bigger field where they would go a stride quicker, which might be what she wants, just sitting off the pace. Would be an ideal scenario where she can just tank along and then kind of cruise into the race at the kind of 2 or 3 out, put the turbos on and gallop the opposition into the ground. We don't really have that set up here. I'll look at the pace in a moment. I suppose what I can report with Really Super is that she's bouncing at home. I get the impression she's in a bit better form actually than she was going into that Utoxeter race, a bit more back to her usual self. So she's fit, she's in form. She's a twice course and distance winner, including a class 3 of £6 lower here last September, when she won with a bit in hand really. And was kind of getting better the further she went that day. So conditions are fine. We think handicap mark's not going to beat her. Whether the tactical nature of this race does again, and whether her jumping defeats her, we shall soon see. She's got the class, she's got the ability to beat this lot without doubt. The ground looks set to be kind of good. They've been watering it to maintain. There's a bit of firm in the odd bit of going. I think they could get some showers, nothing dramatic up to kind of 2 mil. So it's kind of going to be no excuses ground for all of these 4 horses. I'm in GG's, the excellent GG's gold as always. If I just click on this instant expert tab before I look at the pace, you can kind of break down and look at the different conditions, the ground, the class, the distance, the course, obviously, and you can see which horses have kind of run over it and have proven over it. If I just go to all codes and all forms of racing, you can see the kind of picture here. Green is good, amber's good, Really Super ticks all the boxes really. Not in kind of a small field as yet, although I'm not going to use that as an excuse because, well, they were kind of 10-runner fields the last time, but I don't think that'll be beating her this time if she's back to herself, but we shall see. I'll get onto pace in a moment, actually. Sorry, yeah, back to this instant expert kind of dashboard. So this is all codes, all racing. The ground doesn't seem too much of an excuse, although the McCain Horses' best form has been on a bit softer, I think. You can see that those in terms of proven over the distance. If I go on handicaps, again, lots of green there for Super, lots of red for everything else. If I look at hurdles and National Hunt Flat, again, that's just handicap hurdles, as you can see here. And Super with her wins at the track, kind of the October and September last year, you can see the kind of line of green. So that gives hope that in terms of in these conditions, she's the one that kind of ticks all the boxes, and the others have to go and prove it, which they may well do, of course. If I look at pace, I mean, she never really jumped well enough or arguably travelled well enough last time. Ballylongford likes to get on with it, but his recent form, he is really a handicap chaser and a 3 mile handicap chaser. As such, Harry Cobden, I suspect, will try and blast off and use his stamina and try and dictate. And we really wouldn't want him getting too far ahead. If this is kind of a dawdle, we don't want any jockeys letting him go on the front end because he won't really stop. Although he's had 4 runs over hurdles, they're all pretty atrocious, although it was early on in his career. He is 11. He arguably maybe came out of his form cycle last time out, although he made a couple of howlers, and Harry Cobden definitely gets a good tune out of him, certainly in the jumping stakes. How he copes with this switch back to hurdles, having mentally been trained and mentally been running and physically been running over fences for so long, we shall see. But these hurdles are kind of like mini fences in a way, I suppose, whether or not he jumps them too big and has the pace. I would like to think younger legs are going to have him here, provided he doesn't get too far ahead, even if this turns into a bit of a dash. Obviously, his handicap mark is well handicapped on chase form, but that mark's achieved over fences, not over hurdles. So, yeah, he might provide the pace. I don't think we want to be too far off him, and we'll see how hard they go. But if he got back to the form of his runs kind of 2 or 3 starts ago, with a kind of valid excuse last time, maybe the class and that jumping caught up with him, and that was only, what was it, 13, 17 days after his last chase victory, so maybe it came too soon. If he got back to his chase form, he's an in-form horse, and of course in-form horses are always dangerous, but I would like to think something else is beating him here. What should I touch on next? I suppose I'll just go down through the card. We've got an unexposed Niki Henderson handicap hurdler here. He's clearly a danger. He did kind of know how to win quite often and was running his race. As you can see there, he didn't finish outside the top 2 on his early starts in his career. He's thoroughly unexposed in handicaps. Niki Henderson doesn't have many summer jumpers. I suspect he's clearly a bit further down the pecking order and one of the more moderate horses he's got. I would be concerned by the break. I assume something happened at Southwell. Yes, it was a class 2. But the fact that was his first run since November 18, and he subsequently had another 59 days off. Well, I'm not quite sure what that would suggest. He had a lot of racing. They clearly see him as a good ground horse, hence why he probably didn't race through the winter months. Maybe he badly needed it, although he was sent off favourite, and fitness is never normally a problem for any Niki Henderson horse if he wants them to be ready. So he has a question, and he does have to prove that this mark of 126 is about right, or that he's still got something in hand. Given his profile, you would think he would do. Henderson's hurdlers normally have a bit of toe, a bit of speed. He's a kind of 17 furlong winner. Again, if he's fit and he's ready and he's over whatever problem he had, which you assume he is, and he's here to run his race, you'd be concerned if this turned into a tactical dash, because he may have enough toe, and when he last ran in a novice hurdle, he did it fairly easily, but he does have to prove this mark is within range and he hasn't kind of been overinflated or overestimated. We're about to find out, I suppose. Niki Henderson generally does well at a lot of tracks, of course. I can dig down and have a look at his course form. I can look at handicaps. Doesn't do great here, only 3 from 28 in the last 5 years in all handicaps, but those 3 winners were in hurdles, or over hurdles I should say, and Nico gets the ride. So unexposed 6-year-old from Niki Henderson's yard, over hurdles, intermediate trip, is clearly going to be a danger, especially given his profile. So he's one to keep an eye on, and you wouldn't be surprised if he went very, very close. Neither would you, I suppose, with the Philip Hobbs horse. This is another one that indicates he's been pretty hard to train. His wins, well, yeah, sorry, 2 runs, 184 days off, another 111 days off, another 2 runs, and another 116 days off here. That would suggest he's a bit fragile. He has the odd problem. He's clearly not one to trust. Maybe they found out if he did have an actual issue, because he ran December, then he had a break, ran well in April and won, and he did it readily off 116. And his races have generally worked out well and produced quite a few winners, not last time out, of course. But you would like to think, given his lightly raced profile, that he's well handicapped as well. You couldn't sit here and say 122 isn't within range, and he ran to a Racing Post rating figure of 123 for that victory, so that would suggest this mark is fine. of course, he has to show that he's over whatever problem he had, because that would indicate there was a problem last time to have that 116-day break off the back of how he weakened there. Maybe he just didn't like Sandown and didn't like the undulations or the hill and the stiff finish of that place. And it was, of course, a Class 2, and this is a drop in class. So you would have to fear him a bit. Philip Hobbs generally does well here, as you can see. All runners the last 5 years. I mean, if you'd have put a quid on all of those, you'd be £56 richer. So any Philip Hobbs horse at Worcester is clearly a danger at nearly a 30% win strike rate, 46% win and place. Richard Johnson will obviously want to add to the winners' tally in his pursuit of another championship. What else should I say about him? He has been keen before, and again, he might not want this to be a dawdle. Richard Johnson is generally aggressive, or he likes to be if he's got the horse. And well, he won there actually, and he won it easily, having taken a keen hold and tracking the leaders. So he might decide to be aggressive, or this is actually just a race to get him spot on. They've got a target in a couple of weeks' time, and he might not be A1. Fingers crossed that's the case. But here's another interesting one. So this is a little, it's an interesting little race for kind of a decent pop, really. And then we're on to the McCain Horses, rated 112. It's not impossible that everything else doesn't run this race, that we don't jump well. Whatever, that the other two have problems and don't finish off their race, and that the Tizard horse just doesn't have the pace. Here in the McCain horse, we have a horse who's running well, and is another one who's in form, as we can see here. Is at a lower level, is stepping up in class, but, another lightly raced one, 8 runs over hurdles. You couldn't say yet that this one has done improving. Of course, the Racing Post ratings and everything else would suggest... well, that was probably a career best of 112 last time. Got that mark today. The races have generally been fairly weak. The last two have anyway. Last run not producing any subsequent winners as yet. McCain generally does well here as well. Brian Hughes is riding very well. And I think he's had 7 winners in his last 12 rides or something. So he's riding at the top of his game. That's another one who's going to chase the leaders. So how this race is run is going to be interesting to see who wants to take it up. I suspect, like I said, Ballylongford may want to go if I nip onto the pace map here. Hughes may be aggressive. So hopefully, fingers crossed, it's not run at the dawdle. But I should think there'll be a bit of tactics in play as they turn for home, kind of 3 out and 2 out. And it will be a case, hopefully, of getting after really super early enough and using her galloping and her staying ability, which she does, because she has been running as if she might be worth a go over further than 2 mile 4, but we shall see if that's the case in time. But hopefully, fingers crossed, she is a bit more kind of buzzy, a bit more kind of life in her, as was the case when she won twice here at the back end of last year. The return to this venue will hopefully help. The return to these hurdles, which are a bit different from everywhere else, will help as well. As you get the impression as I talk through that, this has an open field. There are 2 unexposed hurdlers from big yards, but both have questions to answer. I'm not going to fall off my seat if either of them wins. We've got a McCain horse, only a 4-year-old, who's in form and running well. I would like to think if one of these other 3 runs their race, they will outclass him, but who knows. And then you've got the old stager Ballylongford, who is kind of solid enough, will try and set the pace, but he is 11. I would like to think the winner's coming from one of these 3, and I know that we have the ability to beat them all. I've no idea what the odds are going to be. I've no idea if it's going to be worth a wager. I certainly won't be wading in as much as I did last time. But fingers crossed. As I keep saying, she runs her race. It is open. It's very winnable, I think. I think everything in here has the odd question. Hopefully it doesn't turn into a tactical affair, and that we can hit the front at some point. And if we do hit the front at some point up the home straight, with any luck, that is game over for the rest of them. So everything crossed. I will be travelling down for the day trip to take in the first kind of 4 or 5 races before jumping on the train heading back up here to Liverpool. But it'll be exciting. It's a tight little contest and full steam ahead. So I hope you found that video useful to some degree. everything crossed. I'm not going to put you off a bet if you think the odds allow it. I don't know what price is going to be yet. You would think this may be a tight little market, I suspect. And with that said, yeah, hopefully that's useful enough. Apologies if I've repeated myself a few times, which I probably have. That's always a danger when recording these videos straight off the bat. But yes, with that said, yeah, come on, really super. You've got it in you, and with any luck, you will add to your superb Worcester record. So yes, thanks for watching. Hopefully you'll tune in and watch the race tomorrow evening. And with that said, it's Josh saying thanks for watching. Bye for now, and everything crossed.